The title of this episode 119, is Should CMS be more concerned or more worried about providers than Medicare agents? And I think there's a real argument to be had that the answer to that is yes. And I've seen a lot of things over the years, right? I've been in the Medicare space 11 years, year 11. Actually, I want to say, I couldn't tell you the exact day, but sometime in June, I'm just going to count it because we're in June, would be my 11-year anniversary date.
Happy anniversary.
Yeah. So the anniversary of my first love, my career.
Your only love.
My only love. So glad my wife doesn't watch this show. But anyway, I've seen all kinds of situations with Medicare fraud, and so many times, especially in like really large amounts of money too, it's providers, like billing Medicare for just these like fraudulent BS charges and everything like that, like schemes, all these different things. Not saying it's all providers, obviously not. It'd be like saying all Medicare agents are bad or anything like that.
Right.
But it seems to me, especially when you're dealing with original Medicare, right? Like an argument to be had for Medicare Advantage, if you wanted to go pro Medicare Advantage and anti-original Medicare. I'm not saying this is the case, but like if someone wanted to have that conversation, the person that would be pro Medicare Advantage would be Medicare Advantage is good because they analyze claims more carefully, because they don't just let anything slip through. Like, do you ever hear about people billing a carrier like that and fraud and, getting fraudulent funds out of a carrier? I can't think of too many instances of that. I always hear about it with original Medicare because original Medicare approves everything because they don't have the staffing to look at things over. They don't have the infrastructure. They're just like, the doctor said it, approved,
I mean, it happened. I think it happens in the under 65 market a lot too, though. I think there's a lot of fraud that's happening. I just saw this whole thing about med spas that are operating under doctor supervision, where the doctor is not even actually at the clinic. They basically, you can call the doctor, right? Like, doctor never goes into the clinic, and you have someone who is, a nurse at best performing surgeries, and then they'll turn around and they'll bill insurance company like all sorts of crazy stuff.
Sure.
And I talked about the cancer kit thing, I think on a previous episode.
Yes.
And the teledoctor, the telemedicine that was behind that, there was all sorts of sketchiness going on. But again, I think it's important to note, like, this isn't all we're not saying, all providers, all doctors are bad, but there is a lot of questionable activities that are going on. Here's the one thing I just want to say is that there's something about, there's like this altruism around doctors, where it's like, they went to school, they got their degree. Surely they're a good person, I guess. They took the Hippocratic oath, Isn't there something about that though, right? Don't you almost think that a little?
I'm sure there is.
Something about that. It's like this is a doctor. It's a good person.
I definitely think anytime you have billing and claims involved, there's always a potential for sketchiness, right? Because whoever's being billed, whether it be Medicare or carriers, they're taking the word of the doctor. They're not sitting there in the office with the patient and with the doctor observing to make sure there's no funny business going on. They're kind of just at the mercy of whatever that claim provides in terms of detail. All I was really saying on the carrier side is I think carriers have a tendency to look these things over closer, and it's less likely that there's any malarkey that's going to slip through. But not to say it doesn't happen. It certainly does.
True.
But, that's neither here or there, I think. But let's kind of jump into this article. So I looked at a couple of different places that this is being talked about. Really, the best information I found on it was on the Department of Justice's website.
OJ, baby.
So I'm going to share my screen, and we can react to this story together. Okay. So it's titled CEO of Healthcare Software Company. So it's a software company convicted of $1 billion of fraud conspiracy. Wow. Okay. Note, this release has been updated to include a quote from the U.S. Attorney for the Southern District of Florida. A federal jury convicted the CEO of Power Mobility Dr. RX LLC, D. Merckx, for his role in operating a platform that generated false doctor orders to defraud Medicare and other federal healthcare benefit programs of more than $1 billion. Oh, my yikes.
Why you liar?
That's a big number.
That's a lot of fraud, baby. More than $1 billion.
According to court documents and evidence presented at trial, Gary Cox, 79, of Maricopa County, Arizona, and his co-conspirators targeted hundreds of thousands of Medicare beneficiaries who provided their personally identifiable information and agreed to accept medically unnecessary orthopedic braces, pain creams, and other items through misleading mailers, television advertisements, and calls from offshore call centers.
Oof.
Cox and his conspirators owned, controlled, and operated D. Merckx, an internet-based platform that generated false and fraudulent doctor's orders for these items. As part of the scheme, Cox connected pharmacies, durable medical equipment suppliers, and marketers with telemedicine companies that would accept illegal kickbacks and bribes in exchange for signed doctor's orders transmitted using the D. Merckx platform. Wow.
There it is. Yeah.
Cox and his co-conspirators received payments for coordinating these illegal kickback transactions and referring the completed doctor's orders to the durable medical equipment suppliers, pharmacies, and telemarketers that paid kickbacks and bribes for the orders. So, like, wow, this is some pretty damning claims.
Complex. Yeah, pretty complex little organization of crime going on here.
Yeah. All right, so I'm going to skip down a little. Well, I guess I'll read this next part as well a little bit. The fraudulent doctor's orders generated by D. Merckx falsely represented that a doctor had examined and treated the Medicare beneficiaries when, in fact, purported telemedicine companies paid doctors to sign the orders without regard to medical necessity based only on a brief telephone call with the beneficiary or no interaction with the beneficiary at all. So that's what you were just saying, right?
Yes,
like
literally. Yes. Yeah.
You know, so for those of you that aren't following along for whatever reason, they're saying that the doctors either would have a phone call with the beneficiary or never even have any contact with them and submit a claim saying they examined them.
Yes. I believe this is happening every day.
I do too. I do too.
For sure.
The DME suppliers and pharmacies that paid illegal kickbacks in exchange for these doctors' orders billed Medicare and other insurers, so private insurance companies involved, more than $1 billion. Medicare and the insurers paid more than $360 million based on these claims. According to evidence presented at trial, Cox and his co-conspirators concealed the scheme through sham contracts and by eliminating from doctors' orders what one co-conspirator described as dangerous words that might cause Medicare to audit the scheme's DME suppliers. So crazy. Yeah. I mean, and this goes on for a minute, right? You know, like there's statements, you know, the victims are U.S. taxpayers, you and me.
You and me, baby.
The main thing is convicted. So Cox faces a maximum penalty of 20 years in prison for the conspiracy to commit healthcare fraud and wire fraud conviction, 10 years for each healthcare fraud conviction, 5 years for the conspiracy to pay and receive healthcare kickbacks conviction, and 5 years for the conspiracy to defraud the United States and make false statements in connection with healthcare matters conviction. A sentencing hearing will be scheduled at a later date. So that's basically the story. So here's the thing. Our company gets involved with client claims every day.
Yeah.
You know, we get involved. We try to help untangle the wires. I've said this before, and a lot of people in the space that also do similar services for their clients that we do, which is a huge part of why we have such a great retention rate, 97.5% from last year to this year, across the board, factoring in death, everything. Like, people can't believe that. I can't believe it. It's a crazy number. But other people that I've spoken to that do similar services for their clients, when I say things like this, they totally agree. I usually only get kickback from people in the Medicare space, or in the medical field, excuse me, in the healthcare, that are healthcare workers, or people that are new agents that just don't know anything. And, you know, new agents don't know anything about anything.
You mean pushback? Because you said kickback.
Oh, my bad. Yes, pushback.
I'm only getting kickbacks from those in the medical.
I'm only getting kickbacks from healthcare workers.
Christian, you're getting kicked. I'm not getting any kickbacks. Where's my kickback?
This is under the table. This is not included in our merger.
I'm getting paid? What?
But no, I usually don't get pushback from people that do similar services for their clients as we do. But I've said things before where I've said 9 out of 10 claims that we see on a day-to-day basis are at the fault of the provider. It's a billing mistake. The insurance might have not been billed at all. An old insurance was billed. There was a wrong billing code used. You went in to, have a nail removed from your eyebrow and they billed it as a toe surgery or whatever, ridiculous things like that.
Weird stuff.
I do believe that the vast majority of things that we see is 2 things. 1, laziness. 2, incompetence. I don't really believe that most of it is malice. You could maybe make the argument that it's malice because they don't try harder to get it right. That's a different conversation. But I don't believe it's intentionally fraudulent most of the time. But there have been cases that I've seen where I'm like, what you're doing here from what we're seeing looks criminal to me.